Hi, I'm Anna from Black Forest Nursery, and today we're going to repot this lovely philodendron. You'll know when to repot your plant if you can obviously see that the green growth above the pot is quite a bit bigger than the root system has space for. Other times to repot, maybe if you have root rot in your plant, if your plant has been overwatered, sometimes it's very difficult to dry the soil, and so that might be a good time to take the plant out and repot it into some drier soil if you expect that you might have some root rot. So we're just going to squeeze the pot a little so that we can slide the plant out. And you can see that this plant is doing some root bound circling around the bottom of the pot, and there's a little bit that was starting to come through the bottom. That's another sign, is if you have roots that are showing through the bottom of your drainage holes. It's important to pick the correct size pot for when you are repotting. You don't want to go too big. So this would be a borderline too big of a pot, because when you put the plant in, the roots of this plant are nowhere near the bottom. And so when you water and the water goes to the bottom, it'll be difficult to maintain moisture around the root ball. So something just slightly larger will fit this plant very nicely. If you have a favorite pot that you want to use that is too big for the plant that you want to use in it, you can always put a plastic liner of the appropriate size down into it, so you can look at the decorative pot, but the plant itself is in the appropriately sized pot. For our soil mixture today, Costa Rica has a nice houseplant mix, but it does promote very good drainage. And because this is a philodendron, it's going to want a little bit more moisture around its roots. So I'm going to do a mix of the organic potting soil from Espoma and the potting mix from the Costa Rica. So I'm just going to do this mix here. When you are repotting your plants, it's appropriate to pick the right soil. So we think of houseplants as one group of plants, but really they come from a variety of different environments from around the world. So it's important to pick the appropriate soil. A cactus is obviously growing in native soil that's very sandy, where something from the tropics and the rainforest wants something that's going to hold a little bit more moisture. So the best way to pot a plant is to make sure you have appropriate drainage in the bottom of your pot. This one has a drainage hole and a drip tray, so I don't need to put any pebbles or anything like that into the bottom. You want a layer of soil on the bottom of your pot so that your roots have something to grow into. And when you put that in, you kind of place it to see where the top of your plant is going to meet. You want to leave a space below the lip, because when you water, you don't want the water to go out and over the rim of your pot. So say we're going to do a mix of soil just around it to firm it in. It's important after you repot your plant to water it in. And this is true of when you're planting outside as well. If you're doing perennials in the garden or annuals in the garden. And the reason you do that is so that the soil can but go down to the roots and touch, make surface area with the roots. If you don't water, you can end up with some gaps and some air holes, in which case the soil is not feeding the plant, and there can be some lack of nutrition if that soil is not in contact with the root itself. So this philodendron has been repotted. I say we're going to water it in, and it's much more stable now that it's in a heavier pot that can kind of counterweight to the beautiful canopy it has on top. Now some plants will want to stay in relatively tight pots. So most things that flower, ironically, so this is a peace lily, but also Hoyas. If you have one that's not flowering, sometimes it's because the pot it's in is too big. And you can kind of think of it as, if the plant has infinite room to stretch its roots, then it feels like it should just keep getting bigger and bigger without the need to flower. When it kind of reaches the end of the edge of the pot, then it signals to the plant, okay, I've used all the resources I have, now it's time to put my energy into flowering. So So just don't go too big when you're repotting any kind of pot. Thank you.